I want to give a huge shout out to all my followers, all my supporters, anybody that has streamed Hot Topic, Hardaway, or Risky. I love you and thank you. Shout out to my team, Music the Label. Shout out to all my producers, my engineers, everybody that's been putting in work. We had 500,000 views on YouTube. 3 videos in, all 3 videos got 100K and up, and I'm finna drop again. If you got a dream, follow it. Boo the Bandit, and this was my vast apparel experience.
She was able to get out her car, and I heard her tell somebody, she's like, "Oh, CMS, I've been shot."
He's accused of shooting and killing Courtney Bruce, known by her stage name, Boo the Bandit.
This is Courtney Nicole Bruce, a 26-year-old aspiring rapper who would be found dead on May 20th, 2021, her body riddled with bullets after an attempted robbery gone wrong. But before we uncover how this promising artist's life was stolen in Columbus, Ohio, let me take you back to September 7th, 1994, where the journey of Boo the Bandit first began. A journey tragically cut short just as she was achieving everything she had dreamed of, leaving behind a devastated family, a heartbroken fan base, and 3 men who would face justice.
DM and DM again. Everybody want to know how I started modeling. Long story short, I went up to New York, met some of the best people I have ever encountered in my whole entire life.
The story of Courtney Nicole Bruce, better known as Boo the Bandit, speaks to American struggle, ambition, and resilience. Born and raised on the challenging east side of Columbus, Ohio, Courtney grew up where opportunities were scarce, where the odds were stacked against young people trying to escape cycles of poverty and violence. Her journey had profound setbacks. Before music became her salvation, Courtney faced serious legal troubles that resulted in a 2-year prison sentence for conspiracy to commit bank fraud, serving from 2017 until her release in 2019. For many, prison becomes the end of their story, but for Courtney, it became a transformative catalyst.
She got that shit now.
Yeah, she do.
He got that shit now. That shit sound like Boo now.
Upon release, she underwent what those close to her described as a spiritual awakening, leading her to get baptized on Valentine's Day. This spiritual transformation became the foundation upon which she would build her entire music career, infusing her lyrics with an authenticity and vulnerability that was rare in the often hardened world of hip-hop. But before she fully embraced her identity as a rapper, Courtney had already begun establishing herself in another creative arena entirely, the world of urban fashion modeling, where she worked with prestigious brands including Chris Brown's Black Pyramid clothing line and Rob Kardashian's Arthur George socks collection, using her striking presence and magnetic personality to make connections and build a platform that would eventually serve her music career.
I'm famous now. Please do not touch me. I'm famous now. Please do not touch me.
Then came April of 2020, a pivotal moment that would mark the official beginning of her journey as Boo the Bandit. She released her debut single titled Lonely, a deeply personal track that immediately resonated with listeners who heard something different in her voice. She rapped about loneliness, about emptiness, about the universal human need for love and affection, about the aching desire to be seen and understood and valued. Topics that might seem soft or weak in a genre that often prizes toughness and invulnerability above all else. Her musical style was deliberately unconventional for Columbus, blending traditional hip-hop elements with pop influences drawn from artists like Justin Bieber and Billie Eilish, creating a sound that was melodic, emotionally accessible, and designed to appeal to audiences far beyond the typical hip-hop demographic. Following Lonely, she released a string of singles that would cement her rising status: Hot Topic, Hardaway, and Risky, each track building upon the momentum of the last, each video racking up views at an impressive pace, each release bringing her closer to the breakthrough moment that seemed inevitable. Each of her music videos surpassed 100,000 views on YouTube, with her collective catalog reaching 500,000 total views. Metrics that might seem modest compared to established stars, but which represented extraordinary growth for an independent artist from Columbus, Ohio, working with limited resources and competing for attention in an oversaturated market.
I want to give a huge shout out to all my followers, all my supporters, anybody that has streamed Hot Topic, Hardaway, or Risky. I love you and thank you. Shout out to my team, Music the Label. Shout out to all my producers, my engineers, everybody that's been putting in work. We had 500,000 views on YouTube. 3 videos in, all 3 videos got 100K and up, and I'm finna drop again.
Her talent didn't go unnoticed by industry gatekeepers and tastemakers. She caught the attention of DJ Academics, one of hip-hop's most influential media personalities, whose cosign could make or break careers. And more significantly, she began collaborating with established artist Trippie Redd, a partnership that promised to expose her music to millions of new listeners and potentially catapult her into a completely different tier of fame and success.
Courtney was a hot tomato. Spicy.
Most importantly, she signed with Music the Label Inc., an exclusive affiliate of Atlantic Records, one of the music industry's most powerful and well-connected major labels. A deal that represented validation, resources, and the infrastructure necessary to take her career to the next level.
In Atlanta too, either or for real, just not Pensacola.
Leave the city, basically.
Yes.
Leave the city.
Despite all these promising developments, Courtney made a decision that would later haunt her mother with devastating what-ifs. Rather than relocating to Atlanta, where she believed her music career would flourish more safely, Courtney chose to remain in her hometown, driven by her devotion to her mother, Wanda Bruce, a medical assistant whom Courtney felt needed her support. This choice, made out of love and family loyalty, would prove fatal. Her mother, Wanda Bruce, would later describe her daughter as stubborn, fiercely independent, someone who knew exactly who she was, but also someone with a big personality and a future that seemed limitless.
She had a big personality and a big future ahead of her. That's how Courtney Bruce, better known as Boo the Bandit's mom, described the up-and-coming rapper.
She almost made it.
Wanda Bruce says her 26-year-old daughter was stubborn, but loved rapping.
On that fateful day, Courtney was sitting in a car with a 25-year-old male companion on the 3700 block of Dort Place, a location forever marked by tragedy. What happened next would be pieced together through witness statements, 911 calls, and the perpetrator's confessions. A group of 3 armed men, Kyson Murphy, age 22, Jumada Williams II, age 19, and Sincere McIntyre, age 17, approached the vehicle in a premeditated ambush. Murphy had lured Courtney and her companion to that location under false pretenses, using the promise of either a drug transaction or a music video shoot, exactly the kind of offer an ambitious young rapper would have little reason to question. This was the setup, the betrayal, the moment when trust was weaponized and opportunity became a death sentence. The male companion, understanding the gravity of the situation and the very real threat to their lives, decided to comply with the robber's demands, surrendering cash, jewelry, and his cell phone without resistance, hoping that cooperation would be enough to satisfy the armed men and allow both of them to escape with their lives intact. But Courtney, true to her stubborn, defiant nature that her mother had described, made a different choice, one that would seal her fate in the most tragic way imaginable. Rather than complying, she resisted the robbery attempt, refusing to be victimized, refusing to surrender everything she had worked for, refusing to make it easy for these men who had ambushed her. Sincere McIntyre, the youngest of the 3 assailants, at just 17 years old, responded to her defiance by pistol whipping her, using his weapon as a blunt instrument to beat her into submission, to punish her for not following orders, to make an example of what happens when you don't cooperate.
For her to get pistol whipped and shot in the chest and multiple times, I heard, that wasn't called for. Even though she put up a fight.
But the violence didn't end there. When the beating failed to break her spirit, when she continued to resist despite the assault, Sincere made the fatal decision to pull the trigger, shooting Courtney multiple times in the chest, bullets tearing through her body and destroying organs and blood vessels and the very essence of life itself.
I was driving by and I heard pop, pop.
The scene that followed was chaotic, desperate, and ultimately futile. her companion, acting with admirable presence of mind despite the trauma of what he had just witnessed, managed to drive Courtney to Mount Carmel East Hospital, racing against time, hoping against hope that medical intervention could save her life, that emergency room doctors could repair the catastrophic damage that bullets had inflicted on her young body.
She's not breathing well.
Witnesses would later report seeing her stumble out of the vehicle and into the emergency room under her own power. But the wounds were too severe, the damage too extensive, the loss of blood too catastrophic. Despite the best efforts of medical professionals, Courtney Nicole Bruce was pronounced dead at 6:11 p.m. that evening, her life ending at the age of just 26 years old, her dreams, ambitions, and potential all extinguished by senseless violence in an hospital emergency room while her killers fled the scene with their stolen goods. And what exactly did they steal? The assailants made off with over $13,000 in cash that Courtney was carrying, along with jewelry and electronic devices. Money that likely represented her earnings from music, from shows, from the hard work she had put into building her career. Money that she might have been carrying to invest in her next project, or to support her mother, or simply because she had earned it and it was hers.
She did worry about her safety.
I always been nervous because I'm a mom. I always worry about her safety, her being small, petite.
The immediate aftermath of Courtney's murder was too shocking. Her mother, Wanda, was left to grapple with a grief so profound, so all-consuming that words seemed inadequate to describe it. The investigation into Courtney's murder moved with surprising speed, with Columbus police working to identify and apprehend those responsible.
Police have arrested a 22-year-old man and charged him with the death of a Columbus rapper. Kyson Murphy is charged with murder and aggravated robbery. He's accused of shooting and killing Courtney Bruce, known by her stage name, Boo the Bandit. Bruce was killed during an attempted robbery back in May.
But what followed was a legal process that stretched 3 agonizing years, from the murder in 2021 to final sentencing in 2024. Leaving Courtney's family unable to fully grieve or find closure. All 3 men, Kyson Murphy, Jumata Williams II, and Sincere McIntyre, were eventually charged, though the sentences they received would become controversial, with many observers arguing the punishment failed to match the magnitude of the crime. In 2024, rather than face trials, all 3 defendants accepted plea agreements. Sincere McIntyre, the 17-year-old who pulled the trigger, pled guilty to murder and received life in prison with parole possible after 18 years, meaning he could be released in his mid-30s while Courtney remains dead at 26. Jumata Williams II pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter and aggravated robbery, receiving 20 to 25.5 years. Kyson Murphy, the 22-year-old who orchestrated the scheme and lured the victims under false pretenses, received what many consider the most controversial sentence, just 12 to 16.5 years, thanks to his cooperation with prosecutors. This relatively lenient sentence for the man whose planning made the crime possible struck many as fundamentally unjust. At the sentencing hearings, Courtney's family members addressed the court and the defendants, making these young men understand the full scope of what they had destroyed. Wanda Bruce delivered victim impact statements describing the daughter she had lost, the dreams never realized, and the music never created. Her aunt Sharon Richardson also spoke, questioning whether these sentences truly represented justice.
Even though she put up a fight.
Wanda says she never thought her daughter would be taken like this.
I always been nervous because I'm a mom. I always worry about her safety, her being small, petite.
The official narrative, as presented by law enforcement and confirmed through court proceedings and the defendant's own confessions, is relatively straightforward. This was a premeditated robbery that escalated to murder when the victim resisted, a tragic case of criminals targeting someone they believed to be carrying significant amounts of cash, with violence erupting when their plans didn't go as smoothly as they had hoped. According to this interpretation, there was nothing personal about the attack. No deeper motive beyond simple greed, no conspiracy or jealousy or calculated attempt to stop Courtney's rising career, just 3 young men making terrible decisions that resulted in an irreversible tragedy. But on the internet, particularly on YouTube, social media platforms, and hip-hop discussion forums, a very different narrative has emerged and gained significant traction, presenting theories that challenge the official robbery narrative and suggest that Courtney was actually targeted specifically because of her rising success, because of the attention she was receiving, because of her label deal and her collaborations and her growing platform. That jealousy, envy, and the desire to prevent her from making it out were the real motivations behind what happened that day on Dort Place. This theory gains additional emotional resonance when considering what Wanda Bruce herself said about her daughter's situation in Columbus versus Atlanta.
When you're trying to climb out of the pit, it was somebody trying to.
These words, spoken by a grieving mother trying to make sense of senseless violence, have been interpreted by some as suggesting that Wanda herself suspected that jealousy played a role, that people in Columbus couldn't handle watching Courtney succeed, that her ascent was cut short not by random criminals, but by individuals who specifically wanted to prevent her rise. The broader context of violence in Columbus adds another layer to understanding this tragedy. Courtney's death was the 75th homicide in Columbus that year, a statistic that casts undershadow on the epidemic of gun violence plaguing urban communities across America, where young people are caught in cycles of poverty, crime, and retaliation that claim lives with devastating regularity. The questions are endless, and the what-ifs are torturous. What if Courtney had moved to Atlanta as planned?
I would say working with Courtney was actually an amazing experience. She was a cool individual. You know, she dropped a lot of gems. Someone like Boog, I learned a lot. So she was a very inspirational person. She knew what she wanted. She was different. She stood out. She really wasn't like anyone else. She was her own person, you know. I would have thought that was the last time I would have saw Boog, but hey, I'm glad to have met her and just crossed paths with her and made some amazing work.
What if she hadn't resisted the robbery? What if she had been somewhere else, anywhere else, on May 20th, 2021? Would she still be alive today? The broader context of violence in Columbus adds another layer to understanding this tragedy. Courtney's death wasn't just the 75th homicide in the city that year. It was a symptom of a much deeper, much older problem, one that plays out in neighborhoods across America every single day. Because when you zoom out from the individual case, you start to see the pattern. Columbus, like many major cities in the United States, has been grappling with a steady rise in gun violence driven by poverty, limited economic mobility, and social environments where young people often grow up surrounded by danger long before they ever experience safety. For countless families, violence isn't an isolated event. It's a constant shadow, shaping decisions, limiting dreams, and cutting potential short before it ever has a chance to bloom. In communities like the East Side where Courtney grew up, kids are often forced to navigate realities that most Americans only hear about on the news. They grew up seeing friends shot, hearing sirens at night, and losing people they love before they even reach adulthood. These aren't just statistics, they're stories of interrupted futures. And in Courtney's case, one of those futures belonged to someone who was finally escaping that cycle, finally building something, finally making it out. But that's the cruel paradox. These communities often produce the strongest, most ambitious, most creative individuals, people like Courtney, yet they also face the greatest risks when their success becomes visible. Rising talent can spark admiration, but it can also spark envy, resentment, and a dangerous sense of, you don't deserve to leave while the rest of us are stuck here. In neighborhoods where survival mode is the default, success can unintentionally make someone a target. It's a heartbreaking pattern seen in many tragedies beyond Courtney's case. Young artists, athletes, and entrepreneurs losing their lives just before reaching the turning point they'd fought so hard for. And when a promising life is taken in this way, it highlights the broader question: how many other Courtneys are out there? How many young people are climbing out of impossible circumstances only to have their futures stolen in an instant? For Courtney's family, these aren't abstract discussions. They are living with a permanent absence, a daughter, a niece, a friend, someone who had the talent, the drive, and the heart to become something extraordinary. And instead of watching her career rise, they were left planning a funeral, facing a legal process that would drag on for years,
and trying to make sense of a world where a young woman can work so hard to change her life, only for violence to take it away. And that's where this story becomes bigger than just one case. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the environments we create, the opportunities we fail to provide, and the systems that allow gun violence to remain so devastatingly common. It challenges us to ask why so many young people feel trapped in cycles they didn't choose, and why escaping those cycles can sometimes be the most dangerous step of all. Courtney's story is tragic, yes, but it's also a reminder of the dreams that exist in neighborhoods people overlook, a reminder of the potential that gets lost every year, and a reminder that behind every headline, every statistic, and every courtroom sentence is a real human life, one that mattered, one that had value, and one that deserved more time. In a different world, Courtney would still be making music. She would still be inspiring people. She would still be alive. But in the world we have, we're left with the question that haunts every story like this. How many more bright futures will we lose before something finally changes? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this one.